The dust of the trail clung to Eli's soul as much as to his worn-out boots. For $5, the price of a good bottle of whiskey, he had acquired a wife. She stood on the splintered porch of his remote cabin, a silent, wraith-like figure in a faded calico dress, her eyes holding the vast emptiness of the plains. The man who sold her, a grizzled drifter with a cruel smile, had simply said, "She don't speak. Not a word, but she works." Eli, a loner hardened by solitude and failure, hadn't wanted a wife. He'd wanted help with the crushing weight of the homestead. He expected a servant, a ghost in his home. For weeks she was just that. She cooked, she cleaned, she mended his clothes with an almost frantic diligence, her movements quiet as falling snow. She flinched at sudden noises, and her gaze always seemed to be fixed on some distant, painful horizon. Eli's initial gruffness slowly thawed into a confused pity. He began leaving small gifts on the table, a wildflower, a ribbon from town, a piece of peppermint candy. She never acknowledged them, but the flowers would appear in a jar of water, the ribbon tied neatly in her hair. One evening, as a spectacular sunset bled across the sky, he found her on the porch staring out at the dying light. He settled into the rocking chair beside her, the silence between them as familiar as the landscape. He wasn't expecting a conversation. He simply sighed, a weary sound filled with all the loneliness of the past 10 years, and said more to himself than to her, "I wonder what your story is." The silence that followed was different. It was charged, thick with unspoken words. He heard her take a sharp, shaky breath. He turned to look at her. Tears were cutting clean paths through the dust on her cheeks. Her knuckles were white where she gripped the porch rail. And then, in a voice raspy from disuse, no louder than the whisper of the wind through the pines, she spoke. "My name is Clara," she whispered. "The man before you, he didn't just find me. He killed my husband. He said if I ever made a sound, he'd do the same to me. You are the first kind man I have seen in 2 years." The words hung in the air, simple, devastating, and absolute. Eli felt the world tilt. The $5 transaction, his own quiet resentment, the drifter's cruel smile, it all collapsed into a new horrifying reality. He hadn't bought a servant. He had, without knowing it, given sanctuary to a survivor. He was stunned, not by the whisper but by the immense, terrible trust it represented.